Our war is a war against evil. This is clearly a case of good versus evil, and make no mistake about it, good will prevail. And the United States is ready to lead that coalition, not only in Afghanistan, but wherever we find terror. Either you're with the United States or you're not with the United States.
On 16th of September 2001, the then US President George Bush declared war on terrorism, and 20 years later, the US flees Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. President Biden stood by his decision to withdraw troops, quoted spending $2 trillion, loss of American soldiers, and it's not their war to fight. Now, one might feel pity for United States and other powers who tried to guard democracy and curse Taliban for their atrocities against women, human rights violations, and Islamic laws, and one might question the low morale of Afghan soldiers. But is it that simple or something more to the story? In today's episode, we will try to understand Afghan crisis in detail and its implications on India. Afghanistan, which is known as Graveyard of Empires, is a country with mountainous terrain, difficult for any kind of infrastructure. It has diverse ethnicity with warlords and tribes who fight among themselves. But these people are hostile to any kind of foreign influence in their internal matters. Often, these groups are seen to unite and fight foreign empires. It was 1839, First Anglo-Afghan War. The then superpowered Britain faces a humiliating defeat. Later, in 1919, Britain attacks Afghanistan to stop Soviet expansion, only to be defeated once again. After World War II, era of Cold War politics began. It was ideological war of communism versus capitalism between Soviet Union and America. In 1973, there was a coup led by Daud Khan, which overthrew the monarchy in Afghanistan and established a republic, wherein he brought reforms in education and women's rights. Daud's inclination towards US and weak economy of Afghanistan led to a revolution in which Communist Party came to power in 1978. The new regime brought radical reforms in land, women's rights, education, secularism that upset Orthodox Afghans who were Mujahideens. The internal dispute in Communist Party and Mujahideen uprising threatened the government. The then flag bearer of communism, Soviet Union, rushed its Red Army into Afghanistan and established a Soviet-led communist regime. This gain of Soviet Union humiliated America. American CIA, who already had ties with Mujahideen jihadis, provided assistance through Pakistan Intelligence Service ISI under Operation Cyclone. By now, nobody was concerned about human rights, war crimes, terrorism. It was all about ideological war between two major powers. These Mujahideens, using unique mountainous terrain of Afghanistan, put up a guerrilla war, shot down Soviet planes using American anti-aircraft missiles and defeated USSR. By 1992, the Soviet Union lost the Cold War. A government recognized by United Nations and United States was formed by Mujahideens. But not for long, as another civil war broke out among Afghan warlords. This is when Taliban was born as a political organization which took control over Afghan from 1996 to 2001. Pakistan, Turkmenistan, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates declared the Islamic Emirate to be rightful government, and each one of these had a role in bringing Taliban to power. It was September 11, 2001. When hijacked planes crashed World Trade Center and Pentagon. This was a major shock and humiliation to American supremacy. The key conspirator was a rich Saudi guy Osama bin Laden, who headed Al-Qaeda. This terror outfit was trained and sheltered by Talibans. America asked Taliban to hand over Osama, which latter refused. And thus, America declared war to re-establish their supremacy and avenge 9/11 attacks by declaring war on terrorism. So, it sent troops along with NATO, fought alongside anti-Taliban Mujahideens and established civilian government. After Osama bin Laden was killed by Navy SEALs in 2011, Obama began withdrawal of American troops, which was accelerated by Trump and completed by President Biden. On August 15th, following fall of Kabul, Taliban came to power. Now let us discuss why Afghan government could not resist Taliban. Taliban is not a single organization, it is formed by various small groups. Anybody who subscribes to Islamic concept of Wahhabism calls themselves Taliban. Conflict between warlords, as mentioned earlier, is common in Afghanistan. So, Taliban is native to Afghanistan and not Americans or Russians. When US-led civilian government was set up, it wasn't in consultation with all Afghan factions. As this type of governance was new to the people and brought up by a foreign power, it wasn't welcomed by many Afghan people. It led to rampant corruption, weak judiciary, formation of ghost soldiers and police, that is, who only existed on papers. All the international funds ended in the hands of political entities. There was no real development in army, infrastructure, education, health, except in few cities. This developed hatred among local warlords and civilians against Afghan government and America. US in 2019, led by Trump, recognized Taliban as a political organization. This was a major blunder on American side, which helped Taliban to strike deal with warlords and local leaders and take control of Afghanistan without any kind of resistance. The low number in Afghan army and poor leadership with no police system, Taliban could take over Afghanistan within no time. Before we talk India, let us see the motive of international players in Afghanistan. Saudi Arabia and Sunni Islamic countries are known to support organizations that subscribe to Wahhabism or Salafism, which is technically the misinterpretation of Islam. Pakistan sees Taliban as a potential weapon to target India. When we talk about China, we already know it is in pursuit to remove US and Indian influence in Asia and to establish its dominance. When it comes to India, it has more negative outcomes unlike other countries. India maintained a close relationship with Afghan government, making huge investments like Afghan Parliament, Salma Dam, Shahdud Dam, Palace, High School, Agriculture University, Power Lines, Cricket Stadium, Jaranj Road Project, Indira Gandhi Institute for Child Health. These investments stand at stake as of today. India's strategic interest was to exploit Afghan mineral resources and counter Chinese influence, which also stands failed as of now. India never recognized Taliban government back in 1996. In 1999, Indian plane was hijacked which later sheltered in Taliban's Afghanistan, and India had to release 3 terrorists who later formed Jaish-e-Mohammed terror outfit and commit 2001 parliament attacks, 26/11 Mumbai attacks and cause unrest in Jammu and Kashmir. Unfortunately, Afghanistan is not the first and I guess not the last country to impose extreme Sharia laws that violate human rights. Saudi Arabia, Sudan, Iran, Pakistan, Nigeria, Islamic states and now Afghanistan are some of the Islamic countries that impose punishment on adultery, homosexuality, theft, murder, which include stoning, pushing from tall buildings, amputations, beheading. These are followed either in mild or severe forms. So what's the way forward for India? India has this policy where it embraces democracies and ceases to hold talks with terror groups. So first it has to change its attitude towards Taliban, as there is no other option right now. It needs to talk with Taliban, assure its investments to be safe, avoid insurgency in Jammu and Kashmir, make sure Taliban does not partner with Pakistan and maintain humanitarian regime. And make sure the imports and exports, the bilateral relations between Afghanistan are not destroyed. One can't trust Taliban, but also India can't risk to wage a war. It has to take diplomatic path. India should accept refugees to its capacity until the crisis settles down. It could also rebuild relations with Russia, who has ties with Taliban. Finally, we as citizens have a lesson to learn from Afghan crisis. If you believe that such crisis won't happen in India or any other country, you are wrong. Extreme nationalism, extreme religious consciousness, authoritarianism, ethnic conflicts, class divides, and rampant corruption are always a threat to sovereignty of a country and also humanity. So, you must be careful before you cast your vote. This is it for now. In future videos, I'm planning to bring more controversial topics such as dark side of nationalism, democracy, capitalism, and so on. So stay tuned.